Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. My name is Dennis for Louis Photography. Today I want to talk to you guys about the M50. A few people have asked me a question about the lenses and what is the difference between the lenses on the M50 camera and the EF lens from the full frame camera. And so many people have this question and you know, I had to go and find the answer myself when I got it, because I wanted to make sure that I get what I want. Now, guys, I don't want to make this video too confusing, but the question is, the M50 has a crop factor. Crop factor means that it crops the picture. It doesn't change the size of the picture, right? 35 millimeter. It doesn't change the size of the picture, but it changes the zooming, right, of the picture. Now, people get confused because it can be confusing, right? So let's say, for example, you see the picture right now of me, right? So you get the Christmas tree here, and that's a 35 millimeter lens. I mean, 35 millimeter photo, okay? Now, if this picture was cropped to here, this right here will be the exact same size as this picture, except you're getting less of the subject that you're photographing. Does that make sense? I think it makes sense, right? So the biggest question is, okay, so if you have to multiply the focal lengths on the EF lenses, right, to be used on the M50 to equal the R6, do you have to do the same for the M50 lens, or do they already come, you know, set that way or converted? Well, the simple answer is yes, you still have to multiply whatever focal length says on your M50 lens. You still have to multiply by 1.61. And so hopefully that answers that question. When it comes to the aperture, right? So the EF lens has an aperture of f2.8, which is the biggest, right? Biggest means that the lens is like open. And the crop factor on here suggests that I would multiply that as well. So I get 3.5, I think, on this lens that I have on right now, but about 4.5 focal length on an 11 millimeter to 22 millimeters. So 4.5, if I multiply 2.8 times the 1.6, I get 4.5. Now, to see if that is the actual case, what we're going to do today is we're going to go ahead and take these photos, and then we're going to go ahead and compare them. Okay, now before we go and do that, I'm going to tell you why I like this camera. And there's pros and cons. And one of the reasons why I like it, it's compact size, can carry this all day. If it wasn't for work, I will have this no problem and take pictures everywhere, you know, just to capture whatever moments I'm trying to capture. If I'm trying to get better quality, then I have to have a little bit more control of the camera. But for me to be like, you know, maybe if I go I don't know, traveling or something, and I don't really want to go and get set up with this big heavy camera, then I would just take the M50 and I'll be happy with it. But most of the time when I take my R6 with me is because I am looking for certain photos that I need to have better range in low light. And so that's the difference, okay? And I love it because it has the auto focusing system on it to where it looks for the eye, you know, and it focuses very well. And so I love that. So besides taking good pictures and, you know, nice focusing system, in low light, it works great with the flash, right? Which phones still can do. So this camera, it still has a lot to go. And it's the reason why I still have it is because it's such a great camera. So there goes that. The cons on it, it's the low light capability, right? So you have to use a lot of ISO, and when you do, it's too easy to have a lot of noise in the picture. Nonetheless, you can still capture great photos with it, and you can still cherish those memories with your family and friends. So if you have the M50, guys, you have a great camera in your hands, and you can use it as well, of course. But if you need professional photos, and I'm in your neighborhood, you go ahead and give me a call, and I'll go ahead and take those photos for you. And yeah, hopefully I can do better with my camera than the M50. But if I didn't have that photographer, then this will be just fine, just for me, all right? So I would like to touch up on the presets on the camera. So on video mode, you can, I will set it to automatic. Just let the camera do what it's supposed to do. I wouldn't fiddle with it too much. But when it comes to settings for photos, that's what I will touch up on. And manual mode, it's, you have to do everything on the camera. And honestly, to be an entry-level camera and to allow me to do all that makes me very happy, right? Because I can have control of how fast the photo's taken, how much light I can have on the photo, how much ISO I can use, how much aperture, the white balance. If you like to play with all that stuff, manual mode is awesome, right? You can have control of it. And then you have the AV mode, and the AV mode, it's aperture priority. Yes, it's aperture priority. And so when you have aperture priority, what you're looking for is, for example, if you want to have something blurred in the back, then you will use the smallest f number on your lens, right, on the camera, so that you can have as much blur in the back as the lens allows you to, and that's okay. But just remember that if you are aperture priority mode and you set to the lowest priority, sometimes the camera will either shoot too fast or too slow. For example, if you're trying to capture some motion blur on something, the camera shutter speed should be lower, and so the camera won't do that. The camera will compensate to go faster because the low f number on it, it's allowing more light to come in, and so the camera doesn't need to go that slow. It'll speed up, and then you lose that motion blur that you're looking for. On the other hand, if you want something sharp, and you have a high aperture on there, then the camera will probably be too slow taking a photo, and then it'll be all blurry and etc. So those are the things to keep in mind with that. Now, the other one, which is one of my favorites when I do events and weddings, because the light is always changing, is the shutter speed priority. And the shutter speed, normally for like an event or a wedding, I will go anywhere between 125th of a second to maybe up to 200, pushing it up to 200th of a second. Now, because I have the R6, I can actually feel comfortable doing that. I know the R6 can handle the low light situations perfect. I can get a photo taken at up to 10,000 ISO, and the photo is still very, very, very usable. And so aperture priority just allows me to say, hey, listen, I don't want anything moving on the picture. And so 125, normally that's enough to take a picture to, normally people will be posing for you anyway. But if people are like moving a little bit like this, like that, then you might want to push the shutter up a little bit faster so that it stops that motion right there. So that's shutter speed priority. It's great. If you're in a concert, use that. The only thing that you have to keep in mind is the ISO, all the noise. The only thing that you have to keep in mind, it's going to be, when you're using ISO, is all that noise introduction that you're going to have on there. Guys, I grabbed the phone because it kept ringing. It's like annoying because I have to stop recording. So I keep it on my hand so I can stop it right away. So yeah, so all you have to worry about is ISO. It's how much noise is introduced in there. So if, once you learn how to use the camera, right, you gotta give something up sometimes, right? If you have a flash, no big deal. But more normally, if you're in a place where you can't use flash, you have to use more ISO. And your shutter speed, you can play with it as low as you can, but just remember the movement is gonna cause blurriness. And so, hopefully that gives you some insight. The other preset is the P, which I think is preferred. In preferred mode, the only thing you can change is the ISO and then the white balancing, right? And normally when you do photos, you don't want to shoot balance right in the middle. You want to go like a little bit underexposed. And, normally that's kind of how it works. There are some settings on the camera for highlight alert. If something is too bright, you can play with it to where it gets a little bit darker. You can bring shadows out more than you can get highlights back. It's too bright, there's no information on there, but in shadows there's more information to a point, right? So you don't want to make it too dark because then you get all this like noise and it looks really bad. It's really ugly. So try to get the best photo you can when you can. And those are the few things that I wanted to touch up on. Hopefully that was informative to you guys. I will go ahead and put a link down below for the website, for the Facebook page if you want to go visit that. So yeah, any questions, guys, feel free to put it down in the comments below. If you've been watching this long, thank you so much. Until next time, you guys be blessed. Peace.